Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This time we're going to be talking about what could have happened in the Star Wars original trilogy if they had gone through with the idea of killing Han Solo, one of the most beloved characters in the Star Wars franchise. It's no secret Harrison Ford was one that very much supported the idea that Han should have died. What the last two films of the original trilogy lack in terms of a storytelling narrative is kind of that death or sacrifice of a hero character. At the end of Empire Strikes Back, we kind of get that with Han going into the carbonite, but it's different than a death because obviously he comes back in the next film. Happy ending, we know how it all ends, but I think it would have been interesting if Han Solo had been killed off for a number of reasons. I mean, let's ignore the fact here that it would have changed the complete outlook of the future Star Wars installments. Don't even want to talk about the sequel trilogy and what they ultimately did with the Han character, but we know that none of that would have happened at least. But I do think if they chose a major character to kill off in the original trilogy, Han does make the most sense. He goes through this redemption arc of kind of being selfish and this scoundrel, this smuggler, to really helping out the heroes in a bigger cause, showing that he cares more than just about the money and that he does end up caring for his friends and the Rebel Alliance as a whole and becoming one of their most valuable assets. Now, as for where in the films Han Solo would have died, I think the most obvious choice would have been at the end of Empire Strikes Back. Instead of the carbonite situation, having Han Solo sacrifice himself to save Leia at the end of that film, I think could have worked pretty well. I mean, just imagine the heartbreak of the I love you, I know scene if after Han says, I know, he is then unceremoniously cut down by Vader or killed by Boba Fett. Which, again, we know that Han was wanted alive, so that wouldn't have necessarily made sense from a storytelling narrative. They would have had to have changed some things and altered plans, but. And then the biggest impact would have been in Return of the Jedi, where Han's role would have been essentially eliminated. But I mean, really, his main role in Return of the Jedi is at first being rescued from Jabba's palace, which could, in theory, have been reworked into a different opening sequence, and then leading the ground assault on the forest moon of Endor, which is a role they could have given to Lando or another character. Could have made Leia more so the leader of that group. Would have been interesting to see, but I think they made the right call in not killing him off. The original trilogy as a whole is very wholesome, uplifting, story about redemption, love, heroes, and you don't always need that shock value in killing off a heroic character. For me personally, what would suck the most would be losing out on all the great expanded universe stories like the Heir to the Empire and the New Jedi Order series that we got before the prequels during that time where the expanded universe was really taking off. And a lot of those stories continued the adventures of Han and Luke and Leia. We would have lost out on a lot of great stories and development for Han after that. That makes me glad they didn't go through with Harrison Ford's wish of killing him off. But again, I think it could have worked either way. The big death that we do get in the original trilogy is that of Ben Kenobi, and that works for the storytelling narrative. You have Luke losing his mentor, and then Harrison Ford would ultimately get his wish in the sequel trilogy, as he is killed by his son, Ben Solo, aka Kylo Ren, in The Force Awakens. And that was one of the only reasons he even agreed to come back and do those movies in the first place, which I guess is understandable. We know that Harrison is kind of a very jaded individual when it comes to Star Wars. He's not a fan of constantly talking about it and making that like his signature thing. But as far as the character of Han Solo goes, I think it's a good thing ultimately that he survived the events of the originals. That's just me though. If you think something different, leave a comment below and let me know. And that's going to be it for this video. I appreciate you watching. Hit that subscribe button if you're not subscribed already so you don't miss out on any Star Wars content we got here at Star Wars United. And as always, may the Force be with you. Now let's blow up that like button and go home.